It would help if I put myself up here. Might make it more fun. Post this. All right. I guess it's time to have a stream. I won't have a long one. I got some stuff to do. It's about noon on Eastern time on a Wednesday. And not sure if anybody will join in and watch what's going on, but you never know. You never know. This is just the way it goes. So it's been a little while since I've streamed, but not too long. I think last week I had a weird day off. I got a weird day off today. My son isn't feeling great. I got a few things I got to run around and do, and yeah, it's been snowing and raining and freezing rain here, so it's been kind of not a great time. And I've been doing poorly from a health point of view, and I haven't quite figured out what's going on. But here I am. So, just talk about a couple of things because I think there's been a lot of great conversations being had, and one thing that came up recently, another great creator in our community, Nara, is putting out a thing on their Discord saying that they're looking for people to do devil's advocate debates. I guess debates are something that have caused good and bad outcomes from and for a number of people, and there's been some interesting debates that I've poked my head in on recently, and some of them are pretty ridiculous, and some of them make people think, and I guess there's a bit of a clash out there about debates and what they're good for, and I am getting I'm getting a phone call, which I'm going to let go for a second, because the last time I took a phone call on the stream, I had to dance, and that's no fun. So when people are debating about flat Earth, I mean, it's kind of a difficult thing for anybody to understand how anybody can get up there and say, "Hey, this doesn't make sense." And I was speaking to someone who I consider a friend, and I don't think they'll mind me saying that they said this because it was a private conversation, but I don't think I'm letting too much out here. I'm not sharing nudies or something here. What I'm going to say here though is that Dr. Tapioca Weasel, who is he's an atomic physicist, I think, or a quantum physicist, and I've actually heard people say recently that quantum physics doesn't even exist. But hopefully he'll come on the channel again, and we'll have another conversation. Actually, I was trying to think of like what we could call like a semi-regular appearance, but I don't know whether that's in the cards or not. We'll have to talk to him again. But he said, when you're talking to these people, they believe in the reality that they've created, or that's been curated and created for them, just as strongly as I believe in the reality that I'm interacting with. And it's a good point, when you have a conversation with people. And if you look at my my channel, I think you'll see that I've posted a couple of videos recently about spheres and spherical geometry. And that's because someone who's in the flat earth or the globe skeptic community, or the earth shape skepticism community, was posting and had their minions or their followers in their chat telling me that I was crazy when I said that spherical geometry actually exists and is a thing. And I'm a truck driver. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a mathematics specialist. I only took math in high school. I'm thinking seriously about going and trying to take some more courses, whether I do it online or unofficially, or just watch a bunch of videos. I've already started watching some to make sure I understand what's being said. And it occurred to me that these folks are really stuck. You're caught up on all videos. Hey, yeah, so it's good to see you. Thanks for dropping in. Yeah, I've been kind of busy posting a few things this morning, but just trying to get myself together. And I'm sort of, I don't want to say I'm rebranding. I'm just sort of upgrading my branding because I don't think I've changed who I am or anything. But I guess what I'm talking about is this idea that we have to think critically and skeptically about anything that we come across, but we also have to be willing to learn, and we have to be willing to trust some people. And I came across some really weird videos, and I think maybe Dr. Tap and I will tackle them. I'm trying to convince him that's a good idea. Um, but they're by people who have some credentials, and I'm not going to talk about the specific ones that I found. I'm just going to talk about the idea that it's important for us to be open to where other people are coming from. And so when you have a debate, sometimes you can hear what people are saying, and there's a few different ways these things manifest themselves. And I think for many people in my circles, there's a large number of people who are atheists. There's a large number of people who believe in a global earth and believe in science. Um, but there's also some people that's push back on some of that stuff. And there are people who will deny what scientists are seeing. And so I had the opportunity to watch a couple of videos last night and earlier on the weekend. Um, and I didn't have a lot of time to just like sit there and dissect them. But a couple of people who are smart, intelligent, educated people have been involved in some of these conversations recently. And I trust those people to know what they're talking about. And I also trust those people because they don't have really weird arguments for things. And they understand some basic concepts about logic and fallacious reasoning, fallacious arguments. And they also understand that sometimes, people get a reputation for word salad, and word salad will not actually um, prop up an idea if you don't explain the idea. So one one debate that happened recently was there's actually a couple that have happened that I thought were interesting. There was one where a guy named William debated on modern day debate against Witless Word Salad, Austin Whitsitt. And he's decided to just run with the word salad thing and say, "Ha, you say word salad, and I throw that back in your face." Um, Yet he just spews out scientific terms without explaining them, and he spews out things that are just wrong. And um I would direct people to MC Tune. MC Tune is a big creator in the pro globe space or the anti flat Earth space, but he dissects a lot of what was said by Austin in a piece by piece manner. He did a good job. So if you want to see it torn apart, but he throws out these things that just don't make sense. He talks about the azimuthal grid of vision. That might actually be a real thing. I can't remember if it is or not. He talks about there's this like liquid magnetic field. I can't remember what the word is. A hydromagnetic something or other. But he throws these words out without explaining them. He just says, "I can explain this with this. I can explain that with that." But he can't. He really doesn't understand what he's talking about. He did this thing on his own channel where he He called it schooling globies or something like that, and he was like just going on and on about every misunderstanding he has about the disproven aether or ether, depending on how you pronounce it. He went on and on about relativity, things he and informametric gyroscopes and the Michelson-Morley experiment and the he just doesn't understand what's actually happening, but he's speaking to people that misunderstand or don't understand even further, and so he has some great following, which is it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's hilarious and everything. Same with like Flatzoid. Flatzoid put out a video recently where he keeps on repeating for us to see that that fight the flat Earth. A guy named Craig from he lives in Scotland. He's an English guy who lives up there. Anyway, not everybody likes him because he's a little abrasive in his videos, and I think some people don't appreciate that. But it's part of his style. Everyone has their own style. There's nothing wrong with that. And usually he's abrasive to people who are abrasive to him. Um, doesn't always mean there's a great discussion, but it does mean there is a discussion. So I look at this and I'm like, Flatzoid's out there, and I was commenting on that earlier today because I was like, you've he said that, when you see an object, this is what Craig said. You see an object, the light bounces off the object, goes into your eye, or if something produces light or there's light produced by something, some mechanism in it, that light will go into your eye. And so you see it. That does not mean that you see the object itself. You see photons interact with the object and then reflect into your eyes, or photons come from the object and arrive at your eyes. So there's a difference between looking at the sun and looking at the moon, in that the moon is reflecting the sun's light to you. And so you see it that way. And the sun, if you stare directly at it, you're like, it's a source of light. There's a difference. Staring at a light bulb versus staring at a chair, for instance, would explain that difference. But in both cases, the sun, the light bulb, the chair, he has a bottle in his video. None of those things are actually entering your eye, but the photons from them are. And Flatzoid's debunk of that is to play other people saying the same thing with slightly different words. If we get hung up on the way something's being said rather than the actual concept or what's actually going on, we're not doing good science and we're not communicating effectively. And I sometimes think someone like Flatzoid, someone like Austin Whitsitt, those particular people are, they kind of have like a money making business going on by, confusing people. And a lot of people say they're in it for the money, they're posed, they're, whatever. They're just pretending to not understand it. Yeah. So presups are, and presup is kind of a term that, I'd like to read the term again, but my understanding with the presup is they're basically like they're starting with the idea that there's a God and working everything else out from there, and that if you don't presuppose God, you've got all sorts of problems. That's kind of the word they say, or the phrase they say, and a lot of the presup arguments are backed by people who are also like pretty abrasive people, and Flatzoid's not a nice person to talk to. He doesn't talk in good faith or have conversations most of the time. He has on a few occasions, but mostly not. Same with Witless. And yeah, and there's a creator named Claude Bulls who I guess he's a French guy. He talks to some young Earth creationists who are pretty abrasive people, and there's people like Darth Dawkins and Mr. Batman, I think. Like there's some people out there that have sort of gotten a name for being like really terrible people to speak to. They're not honest interlocutors, and I can't remember how to pronounce that word. But you can have an honest conversation. Let's have an honest conversation with people that want to talk about something, want to have a conversation, want to talk about the pros and cons of something rather than a gotcha, which seems to be the approach a lot of them have. Um, I I often think I should be like playing someone else's video up here and sharing it and talking about it the way other creators do. And I may do that at some point, but I'm not quite ready to do that today, but and pick apart something specific. But um I guess I should learn how to like share, not just do that. Like I know the concept of like what I gotta click on. I don't have something ready to roll. And I should practice with it perhaps. And maybe I will. Hopefully, I can get back to work tomorrow. Not really sure where things are at, but I'm feeling a bit better than I was, which is why I'm doing this. Last couple of days, I've been going through pretty uncomfortable feeling. Although I did stream with Slim yesterday, which was fun and good to do. So I'll talk about the young arts creationists too, because there was Ken Hovind did a conversation with Grayson, based theory, I believe, is Grayson's channel, and from what I saw of it, it was a pretty cordial interaction, and actually Kent was being a little more reasonable than usual, and I guess they were discussing this in person, and Grayson went and stayed in one of the cabins at the Dinosaur Adventureland park there, and it'll be interesting to see if Grayson does more content on that and talks about it more, but he seemed to go in there with a reasonable take on things, and he was not rude or disrespectful from what I saw. There may be more to the sort of discussion than what I've fully seen, but he didn't fall for a lot of Kent's tactics, and he understood where Kent was going, um, because Kent does the same debate every time. He talks about how he's had 700 debates or some nonsense like that, but he's actually only ever one debate. When have you ever seen a frog give birth to a rock or a dog give birth to something other than another dog? He doesn't understand. Um, he's either mentally deficient or more likely he's willfully ignorant of what's going on because it's been explained to him so many times. If he doesn't understand it by now, he's basically has mental defects that cannot be fixed. The man's in his 70s and he can't understand basic concepts even enough to like, he can't even steel man the position of his interlocutors. And it'd be nice to see him have a conversation with somebody where he actually got somewhere. Um, but he's basically canned responses. You could have a debate with Ken Hovind with a soundboard, basically. He has the same sort of 5 or 6 points he just keeps on bringing up. He doesn't want science taught in the schools if it's real science is backed by research and evidence. He wants equal time for the Bible, um, and he wants to see what he calls macro evolution happen, either to a creature in its own generation, aside from like growing from an infant to an adult, of whatever creature it is, or he wants to see a mother goat give birth to a baby raccoon or something like that. I'm not sure. You've seen one, can't? Yeah, yeah, that's right. So yeah, that's exactly right. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. They are all the same. And he's a pretty unctuous character, all in all. That doesn't mean he wasn't somewhat relatable in his conversation with Grayson. He was a little less ridiculous, and his tone was calmed down in a way that doesn't seem to be that way on his um conversations and debates that he has with other creators, especially like when he does his stupid banging SpongeBob with a hammer. And I guess he's been sort of deplatformed to some degree. I think, like Kent has, based on some of the hate speech he's had. And I don't know if that's the right word for it or not. And I know that's a bit of a loaded term, but he definitely has said some very very questionable things at the very least, and I think they're very hateful things towards people in the LGBTQ IA plus community. I hope I said that right. Um, I feel like I should get like a little note card here so that I don't leave anybody out. But I guess the plus encapsulates some of the other types of people that are other than cis hetero. I think is the term for I guess what I am and what many people are, but not all. And I guess that's the point is that we're not all the same. You know, and Kent seems to think that there's there's only one way that the world works, and it's all written down in his Bible, and he can't move beyond that. And there's some real conversations to have about how we come to behave a certain way. And one of the conversations that really makes me upset is when they start talking about morality and about how they can only be moral with their no one cares. Don't worry. I only oh, thank you, Nara. And Nara, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I was speaking about you earlier and your invitation to have these devil's advocate debates. And I was thinking, how do I support? I was thinking about it because nobody's taken the challenge up yet, and I don't know how that will work. And you and I can talk about that later if we get a an opponent, I guess. But how do I take their position because I can't feel their position when I think about it, but I have to stand on their side and say something about it. A lot of times they say, well, you can't have morals without a moral giver. This is one of the things they say, and they get that from God. And I've even heard, I know Kent's son said this out loud a couple of times that in recent conversation with, I'm pretty sure it was with Apologia. He said he would rape and murder people, at least rape people if there weren't a God. God is the reason he's not going around and sexually assaulting people. I know I'm not supposed to say those words on my channel. Um, it's part of it, right? Um, and yeah, it is. You're right, Nora. That's yeah. If you steal man the position, if I steal man that position, I'm basically saying something that I don't feel is true. In that case, I think what he's trying to say is that he sees people out there that he finds attractive in whatever manner, and I do too. I see people that I'm attracted to in I guess a sexual way. It's part of being a human being. That does not mean that I am going to violate them, assault them, or take advantage of them, or violate the monogamous relationship that I have with my wife. That's just not going to happen. That doesn't mean I don't understand that another person is attractive and that they actually attractive to the point where I find them interesting, I guess, if that makes sense, right? Some people catch your eye. Um, if I'm gonna steel man that position, I guess I'm saying that what Eric Hovind in this case is saying is that he would have a lot of trouble not pursuing a relationship with every one of those people that he finds the least bit attractive. And I think that's also kind of a weird position to take, although I suppose some people could live that life if you did not put yourself in a situation where you're in a committed monogamous relationship. I think it's possible that you could have some sort of openly sexual relationship and have only consensual sex with other people. That's something I could see, and maybe that's the steel man of that position. Um, is that the reason why Eric says that is that what he's really saying is that he would prefer to be in an open relationship and not have a monogamous relationship, and that God is the reason why he chose that path. If he did, I think he's married and has kids. I believe I've seen him say that, but if I have that wrong, I apologize. But that's kind of the thing. If you need a book to be a good person, you don't, and you don't need the book. You need empathy and compassion, in my opinion. That's from Azo. Yes, that's a good point, Azo. I agree. I agree with that. I'll put that up here. Um, Yeah, I think that's 100% right. And so, if it's just that the idea that someone who doesn't have a religious position, would you do with more than one asshole? Yeah, you know what? I can I don't I mean, some people might take that comment the wrong way. And I know what you mean by that. Being in a relationship is challenging. Um and I think some people make jokes about living with the opposite gender, or if it's you're a same gender attraction person, it's the same gender. And if you're from some other um non-binary position, I'm sure like relationships are hard. It doesn't matter about the plumbing. Working with, living with, organizing things with people is challenging. There's just no question about it. So you can't pretend it's not a thing. So I'm gonna just put that out there. It's hard. It just is. You can't just sum these things up in 5 seconds and make it really simple. It's just not simple. I'm not gonna pretend it is. Not now, not ever. Um, and so, people that move from person to person for um another type of satisfaction in their lives, why should I judge that person? The Bible says, well, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. I don't even know if it says anything specifically about that. I know there's versions of the book, or books in the book, because it's a multi book. It's more of a compendium of stories that talk about situations where you can have multiple wives. There's a lot of misogyny in there. That's for damn sure. Um, and I guess, if you're getting your morals from that, and you got to sort of balance out all the big conversations that are brought up by the things that go on in the Bible. um oh, hey, Nara's putting something up there. Okay, I'm gonna put this up here. So I think Nara's pointing this out as something Azo should maybe think about. But this is interesting. So Joseph Smith, um who is was a prophet or the Messiah. So Joseph Smith was from the Mormon um, religion, which is I think, a sect of Christianity, but some people argue that it's not. But I think that's right. They have the Book of Mormon that goes with the Bible. It's an add-on as opposed to a separate religion altogether. Um, so so Asho's ready to debate that, I guess. I can't debate that because I don't know enough about it. Um, but I know that Mormons exist. I remember seeing a lot of ads for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when I was a kid. They played a lot of ads on television. Um, oh, okay. So yeah, and I know Azho's uh I don't know his whole backstory. I know Azho is not a pro-religious doctrine person now. Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons to a point. Okay, well, and I know they're not the same thing, but they maybe have some overlap in their attitudes. And I don't have a tremendous amount of background knowledge on my own religious background, because I was lucky enough to grow up in a household where it wasn't foisted upon us. It was something that was more, people around us were religious. Oh, maybe Yasso and I should do that. Maybe we should have the arguments against each other. You know. Oh, you agree with the Jehovah's Witnesses on the Trinity. All right. I um I have no freaking clue what that means, because I've never understood the Trinity, and so I don't. If they don't agree with it, then maybe I agree with them on that. It's really cool that my bottle disappears when I drink this wonderful Wonderful nectar of the gods. Gatorade Zero, which I probably shouldn't drink, but um, yeah, maybe we'll have some other conversations on the Discord about all this. Um, you're coming on. You're coming on. What do you mean? Oh, okay, I see. You're gonna come on the thing. Okay, here we go. There you go. So you there?
Well, it'd just be easier to try to explain what I said in voice. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can, and I'm gonna wrap this up in about 10 minutes, just because I gotta go out and do some errands. But but so go ahead, explain what you're saying.
Oh, there we go. I had an echo. Sorry, I had to close the YouTube one. When I said, I agree with their stance on, there being no Trinity in the Bible, especially once I started comparing, say, Judaism with Christianity. I did that because my grandmother, who I never really met, she passed away when I was like 3 months old. She was Jewish. So, I've been fighting all these other religions or talking out against them without, ever, really addressing Judaism. And nowhere in the Old Testament do you find the concept of, the Trinity. And even as a, a theist, I never really understood what the Trinity was. I just went along with it, and I actually learned what it was, as an atheist, supposedly. So that's where I was going with the Trinity, bit.
Okay, yeah, no, and I learned about it mostly from friends and neighbors who were Catholic, who talked about it a lot. They talked about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost all the time. In the church that I quote unquote grew up in, it was tangentially mentioned, but there was a lot more. There was a lot more talk about God and Jesus, and the Holy Ghost was or the Holy Spirit was the way they usually said it.
Right.
But I think
Yeah.
it means the same thing. Was just mentioned in certain prayers. Something a minister would say, but not the same way I saw my Catholic neighbors and friends dealing with, and in my upbringing, it was um, extremely isolated. There were really sort of only well, there were sort of three religions that you'd see a lot of in the neighborhood I grew up in. You see a lot of Catholics who were often Irish or Italian in background, a lot of Eastern Orthodox people who were Greek in background, and a lot of Protestants who were typically um, from sort of Northern Europe, UK, etc. And like anything but Irish Catholic, essentially. And so I lived an insulated life in that regard. Is that there were very few people from other places.
I saw to Nara there, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Nara, if you want, sometime we could either do a Discord back and forth so I can try to answer your questions, or we could
yeah.
even, open up a, either, do a stream on it, or even just, do a face to face, because sometimes it's hard to, you know, get through what,
Yeah.
what you're saying. And that's why I come on just to clarify the, the
Oh yeah,
Trinity.
no, it's easier to just speak out loud about
Yeah. Yeah.
certain
And then
things.
if you
Yeah.
have any questions, then you can ask me or vice versa, and we can try to clarify or qualify, sort of thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
what doesn't
Nara,
make
don't worry
sense
about it.
is,
This is
yeah.
I didn't come on here with an agenda. I came on here to talk about some things that were running around in my head. And Nara, your debate idea about doing the devil's advocate debate was part of what I was talking about at the beginning of my stream. Because it makes you think. And Dr. Tap made me think about, like, how would I think about things if I had my same attitude about something that's wrong? And you just wanted to get the two of us to debate.
Well,
I
and see what would be a great topic, but I don't think we would
Yeah.
go against each other, say like the CFL versus the NFL. And I'd actually probably take Al's position because I love the CFL.
Well,
Just
the CFL is a pretty good league. There's good football played in the CFL, and that's what
yeah.
I grew up playing.
And,
But
and well, you look how
watching,
many guys that, the NFL took from, the CFL, Jim Kelly, Steve Young, on
yeah,
and on and on sort of thing. And even vice
yeah.
versa.
Oh yeah,
Cause I
there's been
remember,
back and forth through both
right.
of
Cause I
them.
remember the CFL went after Herschel Walker big time and offered him all sorts of big bucks to play in the in that league. So we couldn't argue that. We might be able to do hockey, depending on if he follows that and what team he likes.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
not a big hockey fan. And I don't
good.
know
I
what
win that
you might
debate.
think.
1-0 asshole.
Yeah, well, and I think on religion as a general thing, I don't know that we have opposing positions because I think we're both atheists,
Right.
um
I
but
do
yeah,
like the concept though of trying to play the devil
yeah,
advocate, especially like say if Al was a Catholic and I was whatever, we debate whether Catholics are true Christians. He would have a great
yeah.
perspective from being an ex Catholic opposed to somebody that never was.
Yeah, but I
in
never
JW.
actually was Catholic, but the most religious people that were around me on a day-to-day basis happened to be Catholic because I the
I would
neighbors
just for
I was
example, just
with were
tossing that
Irish
out there,
Catholic.
regardless of what you were or
Yeah,
anybody. It just because
yeah,
I
so
find it fascinating now that some things I agree with the JWs that I fought tooth and nail as a theist and even as a
mm,
ex JW wannabe. I did for about 5 years some what I called pseudo Christian cult awareness with a couple that helped me get out of it before I got dipped as one. But I also
mm.
dabbled with Mormons because there are a lot of similarities, not in doctrine per se, but the mindset of a cultist.
It's like a
And now I look
structure.
at it as even Exians are cultists and they just don't realize it.
Yeah,
In my opinion, anyway. I don't
yeah,
want to get you in trouble,
there's
Al. That's my opinion, not Al. So come at me, not Al.
no, hey, no, that's fine. I think there's been some pretty decent arguments made that and I'm not saying this is my position because I think there's some religions that are much more innocuous than others, and I don't have the same sort of they don't fit like the bite model of cults, but some people say like the difference between a religion and a cult is what your membership numbers are.
Right,
And
right.
no, it's a throwaway line, but it when something's so big that it's just accepted, the cult like behavior is ignored. But it doesn't make it non-existent. So
Well, even the JWs, they've got roughly the last time I heard was like 15 million people. That's a lot of people. That's not
no,
what is
it's
perceived
not
as a
nothing.
cult, but yet by the purest definition of what a cult is, because I mean, basically, a cult leader would be, a single individual, charismatic, where their members, pretty much
Mhm.
live an unconventional life. Well, that
Yeah,
applies to almost every religion except for the numbers, and like with the JWs, they don't have an individual person. They have a governing body of it was 9, and I think they just kicked one out, but roughly 9 to depending on who croaks and who doesn't, who gets kicked out, but it's
yeah, but
still,
that's it's
they're
still
your
yeah,
spokesperson. You can't know the Bible without that governing body, and it's all through their literature. So yes,
yeah.
I bypass the number of heads of it and the numbers just for the fact that if it walks like a duck and tastes like a duck after you put it in a turducken, it's going to be a duck.
No, I think that's right. So there's definitely that. And not saying that you and I would both take a theist position and then
Right.
oppose each other in a debate. So I'd have to go and learn a religion. I don't know which one I would learn. Or I could just back up one that I already have some knowledge of, and maybe I should learn more about like the ones that sort of are tangentially attached to me directly, but through having family that are in them now.
Right.
Um,
I love this concept just for the fact that me and Kentucky Atheist the other day were talking about because I wanted to get Skeptic and Scoundrel on to do and we've been talking about doing one for a while, one on the JWs because we were on, I can't remember what podcast or stream it was,
yeah.
but there were things that I knew that he didn't know. And he was
Mhm.
a born in the religion, type of JW, whereas I just studied with him for 2 years and was going to get dipped. But and I think
Yeah.
a lot of that has to do with the pseudo Christian cult awareness that I did afterwards because I had a lot of material. I have the quotes, you know, and
Mhm.
we're talking about just Michael the Archangel, and he didn't realize that the JWs taught that Jesus is Michael the Archangel, both
Oh, yeah, I
incarnate.
didn't know that. I did
Yeah,
not know that either.
yeah,
I've heard.
and he actually looked it up on his. I think he must have had the Watchtower site or the CD, because I've
Yeah.
got the CD, and they do teach that Michael the Archangel was Jesus, pre-incarnate. That basically either he had to commit suicide just with their view of the afterlife. Either had to commit suicide or God killed him, and then he was put into the body of Jesus. When Jesus ascended to heaven, Jesus ceased to exist, and now Michael the Archangel's back in heaven, but still with the name of Jesus. I know it's complicated and it's weird. And then
Yeah.
Eric was looking it up. He goes, "You're right." And it's just funny how people can have so many different views of the same religion, from different aspects. And a lot of it has to do with the mindset. Whatever the Borg tells you, that's what most XJWs call the Watchtower governing body, is the Borg.
Yeah.
Just for a side note, but whatever the Borg says, you listen to, because a lot of them, unlike me, have to worry about the shunning and being disfellowshipped and losing all their
That's
families and friends.
that's
And
it.
it's
Yeah.
sad. It's
There's
sad
a
as
lot
hell.
of it. A lot of that aspect of it is really like sort of the biggest concern, the
Right.
biggest the biggest
And you get
piece
that
of
in more than just the JWs. You get it in Mormonism, the Catholics, you get it in
mm,
the Church of Christ, the SDAs, on and on and on, and it
mhm.
gets me sad and pissed off at times when, you'll have one group say, "Oh, that's awful. They shouldn't do that." But yet they don't realize they do the same damn thing. Quit being a
No,
hypocrite or
it's
talking out both sides of your mouth.
no, I agree with you. There's definitely sort of like a way of talking, a way of approaching things that is common, even though specific doctrine and specific ways that things are put together may say, okay, this is a little bit more culty than the other thing. But I think the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, and like a lot of the things I hear going on, they remind me so much of Scientology and other sort of more recent upstart religions. But a lot of the same things apply to big religions that have, like, membership in the billions or hundreds of millions. It doesn't really matter the number. It's a lot of it has to do with the way people behave and the way they behave towards each other. I think that's something that, like, I grew up knowing about the Mennonite religion tangentially, mostly because there were people in my family that were Mennonite. We were, like, my direct ancestry were kicked out, basically. And so we ended up out, but other people were in. But I heard about what happened to, my great grandparents. Um, and I won't go into the details because, like, honestly, I know just what I was told, and I don't know how accurate it is, and it doesn't really matter. But basically, they were kicked out because they were from different villages or something, and the pastors from each village didn't get along, and so they were kicked out. Not so much that they were doing the wrong thing. They were going to stay in the religion and everything, but their people didn't like it, and the shunning was the way of approaching it. But from my understanding, shunning is, they may not call it that, but shunning is exactly what they do in the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Right.
You're turned out. You're disregarded by your family. I don't know if Mormons are the same, but I feel like I've heard a lot of stories that make it
Yeah.
sound like like it is like that. And then, but I also know my wife was watching a show about, I think it was Mormons, where they're having to, like, help people escape, like young people escape from
Yeah.
abusive homes. And they live in compounds where they literally have armed people, like, running around trying to
Yeah.
keep
That
people.
sounds more like the FLSD, which is
Yeah.
an off branch or sect of the Mormonism.
Okay.
There's
Yeah, my
I've
wife was
seen it.
watching a lot
I've
of
seen
these
that show,
shows
and they're
years ago.
polygamists openly.
Okay. So it's the polygamist, and that's not necessarily throughout all of Mormonism, but, like, it is something that happens, right?
Right. Even in
Yeah, so
mainstream Mormonism, it does, but the Mormon, that goes way back to, even before Utah was a state. Utah wasn't even going to be a state because of the Mormons, because of the polygamy. Here you have a country that's, quote unquote Christian. How can we have,
mhm.
polygamy in one of our states? So, lip service.
Yeah,
Yes, we don't believe in polygamy. We renounced it. But Joseph Smith, to the day he died, had multiple wives. Brigham Young had multiple wives. On and on and on.
yeah,
And then like the FLSDs that you're talking about on TV are the ones that totally adhere to Joseph Smith's teaching, and he pushed and taught polygamy, even stealing his own members' wives that were already married.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
Yeah, and it sounds like it's a difficult situation for, and they
yeah,
like a lot of people are like really worried about the young women that grow up there because they're
right,
they're married off at a very young age, and that isn't good. But also the young men are brought up in a situation that doesn't help them. Like if they do leave, they how do they integrate with the rest of society?
right, right,
They've grown up with a very what I think the general consensus, even amongst people who are religious, is that it's not the right way to go about things, and so you're not going to get a lot of support from the rest of society. So you have to unlearn and then relearn like what's
right.
normal. Um, and but it's obvious that this stuff isn't cut and dried. So yeah, and I hate to cut things short, but I do need to go and get a bunch of
Yeah, I was
stuff
going to
done.
say, anytime you're going to cut this off, go ahead. I just wanted to jump on
No, I
what you said
appreciate it,
today,
and I
but
do
yeah,
appreciate. I think I might be younger than you by a couple of years, but I'm an old school person that would rather talk than text.
right.
And I find it an easier way to communicate. But yeah, and I don't know that Nara's still here or anything, but I think we all know each other on Discord. So, if you and I are opponents, sure we could be, and if not, I mean maybe other people will see this and say, "Hey, someone might say, "Hey, I want to argue with Azho about something," and then I want to argue with me about something else, and I'm happy to do either or both. I'm curious about trying to change my way of thinking. So,
Right. I'm sure the flat earthers are coming after you.
oh, they might be. I haven't been kind to them. I did show my big white ball there.
Yep, I've seen that.
Couple
That's
of times.
quite educational, and it's like, wow.
So, yeah, there's a couple of flat earthers that have been basically just denying, and they also deny being flat earthers, even though they're just like, well, we don't know what shape the Earth is, but it's definitely not a globe. Um, and, they're odd folks in their thinking, but this is what Dr. Tapp and I were talking about, not on stream. We were just talking about what was going on. Like, how do people get these ideas in their heads? And he's like,
Yeah,
you have to like put yourself in their minds and realize that they believe in their position just as strongly as you believe in yours.
right. And that's what
And
any
that
conspiracy theory is, not even just, flat
exactly.
earthers.
Yeah, I know
It's like, how do
it's
people believe
absolutely
this
any.
in the 21st century? But they do.
Yeah, I know, and I got into this whole community more than anything, not from my own family, because I just sort of just don't talk about it with my religious family members. I just don't discuss it if I can avoid it, and if it does come up, I tell them what I think, and that shuts everybody up in a big hurry because
Yeah, I
nobody
get in
wants to
trouble
hear
with my
it
family,
anyway.
even though it's funny because online, when I say I lean right, I've been attacked for, well, you going to get your information at Fox News, and I never watch it. And my mom fight about Fox News because every time I walk in there, she's got her,
Yeah,
head up their asses. And hey, did you hear this? I said, Mom, I don't care. I really don't care about
yeah,
Fox News. I don't care about CNN. I want real, trustworthy, news. But I get attacked. I don't know how many people, even in my real life, I've got into it over trans issues. It's like, whoa, whoa,
yeah,
whoa, guys, back up. At least educate yourselves a little bit and not just shoot your mouths off about stuff that you hear on TV. So I get attacked on both sides sometimes. So, I don't even care.
yeah. I see Reggie showed up here. Just I don't know if Reggie's been watching or not, but Reggie showed up here just in time to see me close down the whole show.
Right.
But yeah, in terms of service friendly big white ball, yeah, no, I figured if I pulled out my nuts on stream, that wouldn't go very well, even though they're
Yeah.
probably just almonds and pecans. Um,
Then you'd have to use a microscope.
but yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff. Oh, I said the R word in the stream, right? So like, I mean, I'm probably gonna get totally shut down, but I don't make any money on this channel. That just means I never will, right? But I really just I don't want to see people badly treated. And I don't want to see people with misinformation go down the wrong path and find themselves in a bad situation. So, but it is important to think openly and to understand how other people think. So I think Nara's concept is great. I'm glad to see Reggie's here. And I misspelled their name, but anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up here. But as always, great to have you
Okay.
join us and have some conversation here. And you know, We got through a couple of concepts, and I think if we're all open to understanding how someone else is thinking, then we can maybe we can change their minds. But if nothing else, we can at least open up
Educate
our
other
own.
people that don't have a clue what's going on. That's would be my
Yeah,
point.
absolutely. All right. Well,
Okay, I'm gonna bounce out here. So
I'm gonna end the stream here. Thank you everyone for showing up. Like, subscribe, whatever, or don't. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. You can live your own life. Thanks everyone.